Hi, I'm Tabitha Williams, and welcome to What's Eating Harlem. We cover the most exciting community in the world. There's so much happening in Harlem. Let's get started. Hey folks, don't look now, but there's a new hip restaurant on Sugar Hill. Plus, we join the incomparable historian, Lana Turner, as we continue our Renaissance to Renaissance series. All of that and more coming up next.
This program was made possible by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, the Harlem Community Development Corporation, and by the West Harlem Development Corporation. Solutions through collaboration.
A new restaurant named The Porch comes to Sugar Hill, and they are collaborating with local businesses and vendors to maintain the sense of community right here. They have live music. I'm talking jazz, hip hop, and R&B. And did I mention the food here is great?
I really just want to say thank you to all of you for coming.
Mark Miller, the owner of the new Harlem restaurant, The Porch, is a Renaissance man. And like most Renaissance men, they always find their way to Harlem, USA. The Porch Restaurant, located at 750A St. Nicholas Avenue, incorporates just about all of Mark's life experiences: hospitality, music, food, real estate, and friendship. Mark, I'm excited to have you here. And quite frankly, I've looked through your bio and just thought, wow, this guy is amazing. But can you walk me through your career journey?
Ooh, okay. So, I think every step along the way has come from not saying no. You know, an opportunity presented itself, or someone called me up and asked me if I wanted to do something. And instead of saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not really qualified, or I've never done that before, I just said, sure, right? And trust in my ability to just figure things out. So I went to school for ethnomusicology and comparative religions, very career-minded, right? And I got out of school and there was nothing. I made one call for a job teaching religion, and they asked me if I was Catholic. And I said, you mean Catholic with the little c or Catholic with the big C? Because Catholic with the little c, yeah, I'm open to everything, and it was a click. So I went to work in a music store. It led to a job in the music software industry. One of my housemates was reverse engineering the Sega Genesis, and I was getting a little burnt out of the software business. And out of nowhere, a guy named Greg Johnson called me up, heard those two things, put them together, and said, I heard you're writing writing the music software for the Sega Genesis. And I said, no, I am not, but I'll bet you need music for a video game, and I'll bet I could do that. And that became Toe Jam and Earl, which was a lot of people, means a lot to a lot of people.
A very, very fun video game.
Yeah, and the first time there was that kind of music, like rhythm and blues, you know, kind of funk music in a video game, that had never happened before.
What brought you to Harlem, and what brought the restaurant to Harlem?
What brought me to Harlem A little bit of it was cold calculation in terms of the real estate.
Okay.
There is such beautiful real estate here. There are beautiful buildings, and there's a lot of historical districting. And it's on a high elevation, and I don't know why, but I've always lived on hills, on top of hills. You know, when the enemy comes, you want to be on the high ground.
Absolutely.
Right? So, as we started exploring up here, people said hello. People like, I'm just a stranger walking around, and like people said hello, how are you doing? And I was like, oh man, that's what I've always wanted in a place to live. So it was the environment, but mostly it's the people.
The embracement of the community.
Yeah, and being like a total stranger, right, and not having roots here, and just being immediately accepted.
Mark has an experienced crew for his kitchen. Their seasoned executive chef, Matt Fisher, and Matt's sous chef, Hassan Salim. Together, they're cooking up an awesome menu. Matt, it is a pleasure to be sitting here with you. And I must be honest, I've seen some of the food coming out of the kitchen, and it took everything in me to stay in my seat, to not attack the server, to not take a fork and just So tell me, where did your passion for food come from?
My passion for food started in my childhood. My father actually ran away from home in his teens and joined the Merchant Marines. And on that ship, he worked in the galley. And he got to travel the world and learn about food and cook every day. So from the time I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was standing on a chair, stirring pots of sauce, making dumplings, making bread, making pasta. We were a family that loved to eat. So it was always a part of our holidays and celebrations. And that's where it really started for me.
Now, in terms of barbecue, a lot of people say they make barbecue, and you truly do. So what really sets you apart and puts you at the top of the pile?
I appreciate the process of cooking the food more than eating the food. And so splitting the wood, maintaining the fire, sitting by the smoker overnight are all the parts of it that I really enjoy. So I think it's that dedication that comes through in the flavor, that passion, that attention to detail. I think it makes a difference in my food. As far as the flavors, being a New Yorker, I have access to an incredible array of ingredients, different spices from different parts of the world, so we can play a bit more and work with the ingredients and do something that's a little bit more New Yorky, and I like that.
Chef, I'm happy to be sitting here with you, so please speak to your role here at the Porch.
I'm the chef de cuisine, the CDC. My role is to take Chef Matt's idea and make it work. I train everybody, and I need to take the time to be down and the food to come out perfect.
For everything?
Everything.
Do you have a special dish that you enjoy preparing the most?
Yes, the vegan sausage is one of my additions to the menu, and I enjoy preparing that the most because I'm a vegetarian, and nowadays these people need a lot of different selections, and pork, I'm gonna counter that with vegan stuff.
Also on the menu at the Porch, there's mouth-watering items such as their hickory smoked barbecue chicken and baby back ribs, served with 2 sides and house pickles. The backyard burger with comeback sauce and cheese on a brioche bun, and so much more. Now, we've spoken about food, and that's delicious, and my mouth was watering, and I'm looking forward to it. But what's food without entertainment?
The idea here, I've come to know and I've been introduced to these younger musicians who live here in Harlem who are deeply, deeply steeped in jazz music, but they're also bringing in elements of contemporary music, so hip hop and R&B and gospel and soul music into jazz, mixing it together, and that's adding a tremendous amount of vitality, in my humble opinion, right? That adds a tremendous amount of vitality to the music, and it appeals to a younger audience. So we're hoping to do some residencies here and get a little bit of a scene going that will really be based around this new voice of jazz music in Harlem.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I have spoken with other musicians and they've all been in alignment with what you're saying in terms of the music aging out. And so in terms of chasing the new demographic or a younger demographic and bringing them in, you mentioned the residencies, but what other components will you use as a draw to really solidify that you constantly have that rotation going?
Cocktails, craft cocktails. So Paul Skimmerhorn is here. He's coming from the Mark Hotel, and he's putting our cocktail program together. And we're getting into the tiki vibe. So I think the combination of great late night food and cocktails and craft beer and fine wine program and a cool place to hang out with a friendly vibe and the outdoor seating and having no competition anywhere around, right, till you get all the way over to Broadway.
Helpful. Right.
I think that's going to attract a lot of the younger people who are both here in the neighborhood now and who are moving into this neighborhood.
Seems like the end of the line. Yeah, my mind's completely made up, because only a fool would stay. Knowing one day you'll break his heart. My heart says stay, but my mind says go. What to do? I swear I don't know. It seems like it's the end of the line. We're living in borrowed time. Oh girl, it's the end of the line. 'Cause loving you is just a waste of
What's Eating Harlem wants to get you involved. Visit our website, www.whatseatingharlem.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and like our Facebook. Returning to our Renaissance to Renaissance series, I'm joined by Miss Lana Turner, a student of Black history and culture, and I'm honored to be a student of hers. In my hands, I'm holding the book by Jeffrey C. Stewart, which is The New Negro, The Life of Alain Locke. And this book won the 2019 Pulitzer Prize. Now, Alain Locke, what influence did he have on the Harlem Renaissance?
Alain Locke, I suspect there is not a book you can pick up on the Harlem Renaissance that does not mention Alain Locke. And so while he doesn't always surface as the largest household name when one thinks about the Harlem Renaissance, this isn't just general. One will think about Langston Hughes or Countee Cullen. Those names will come up a lot. But Alain Locke actually is considered the architect of the Harlem Renaissance. And why? He did not live in Harlem. He came here often, but he thought of Harlem, I think, more of his spiritual home. He grew up in, his family is from Philadelphia, so between Philadelphia and where he would spend a lot of his academic time once he started working was in Washington, D.C. at Howard University. But he was educated at Harvard, and he did both his graduate and undergraduate degrees there. Though there was a stint in which, more than a stint, he actually was our first Rhodes Scholar. First Black Rhodes Scholar.
Yes.
And so he goes off to Oxford in England, and for the first time, he recognizes right up close and personal, not that he didn't experience racism before, but here's a moment where he is trying to get into one of the schools at Oxford, and they're saying, no, 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 you have to go to this one. No, that's not the dissertation we want this. He is, I wouldn't say disillusioned, but what he does, what Alain Locke is really good at, is imagining how he wants to find information and uses a certain level, a certain instinct to be able to do it. And so I should back up just a little bit. When he goes to Harvard, he's not of the moneyed middle class. He's very bright. He has inherited the currency of education.
Okay.
His father's educated, his grandfather's educated. You know, when he's a baby, he's rolled along and his father is reciting, you know, Latin names of trees and talking about Homer and the Odyssey to a child that's 3 or 4 or 5. However, he retains the stuff. Now I can say he could recite Homer when he's 11, but he is a mind that later on you realize he's able to take pretty much everything that he knows something about, and he's able to turn it around and make it into something that he sees in a very unique way. His father dies, he's raised by his mother, and his mother thinks, both of the parents think the world of him, but he is closest to his mother emotionally. And so as he is going to Harvard, she is a teacher, she is working day and night, and she is trying to finance this education, which is really tremendous for them. But he is there, and he is making the most of his time at Harvard. He is the one thing he is very clear about what he wants and he doesn't want. If you look at the cover of that book, you will see that that particular aesthete, as he might call himself, is rather beauteous in a way. If you look at that drawing, it's really quite beautiful. He would see himself as that. He was always well put together. He was always the one who would be dapper in his own way. Alain Locke was a short man. He was short and he was careful about what he did. He was gay, but he was not out as gay. People who knew him closely certainly knew that, but I say that to say that throughout the book, there are ways in which his sexuality allows him to be this extraordinarily gifted man who is able to, from a place that other people couldn't see. So if you were heteronormal, you would be a member of the NAACP, let's say, and you were really smart, or the National Urban League, or when they were formed. But they weren't really taken too kindly to people who were gay. You know, I mean, I'm sure that there were people who were gay in those organizations, but he is someone who really sees himself as a leader. He's a leader without having an organization like the NAACP or the National Urban League or even like Booker T. Washington. He's a leader, but he doesn't have any of those organizations to lead. He doesn't have these people to lead.
So how is he doing it?
So how does he do it? Yeah. When he goes to abroad, he realizes for perhaps really and truly the first time, he can be himself. And in being himself, he doesn't have to worry and look over his shoulder who sees him being with this person or that or the other. You know, sexually, he can certainly be himself. I mean, people are open to him and he indulges. But he indulges in other ways as well. He's able to meet students from many international places, from Africa, from India, and he befriends them at Oxford. And they actually come with notions of revolution and how to make changes within their community. Those elements of being with people who you are meeting and who too have issues that they are turning over to make their communities better. Alain Locke has always thought that he was going to do that. Somehow in his mind, he had already imagined that he was going to be a leader. And to me, it's just extraordinary. It's extraordinary because he really does not have the cachet that the acknowledged leaders like Booker T would have or W.B. Du Bois would have. He doesn't have that. But yet, he still imagines himself a leader. But he has used and recognizes that everything within himself is how he is going to be able to maneuver because he's done it already. For example, he becomes an Oxford scholar, right? He gets into Oxford. Now, generally, to be an Oxford Fellow, you would have to have a sport that you had excelled at, in addition to the academics.
Okay.
Okay. What sport did he excel at? None.
Okay.
None. But he used his ability to think through things to try to figure out how he could still be at the top of the application pack. He said, oh, you know what? There are a number of people from Harvard who will probably apply. There are probably a number of people from, Washington, D.C. that will probably apply. Let me apply from, was it New Jersey? Yeah, and he applies from a place where he was like, who?
Right.
And he manages to get in. Now, of course, once he gets there, he is soundly put out by the Southern white Americans who are also Oxford Fellows, who want nothing to do with sitting in the same place to eat with him or anything else. So this is the thing about Alain Locke. He starts to figure out other things, just like he figured out how to get there. He said, okay, they don't want me to do this, I'm gonna do that. So he just picks himself up and goes off to Berlin. He picks himself up and he starts touring around. He meets people, he's able to connect up with them, but the one thing about him, even though he's exploring this marvelous sexual space in his life that he couldn't do when he's here in the States, he takes in everything. So if he is interested in, for example, Tennyson, Tennyson, he's looking at how Tennyson uses the literature that he writes, and it becomes the literature for the people. And he's thinking, well, you know what, I think I can borrow that idea. And he does. He looks at going into cathedrals, and he's looking at frescoes. He's looking at paintings. And all of these things will gel. They will all gel in his head, and he's going to start turning this over as to how he can figure out this way to make to make the statement that he needs to make about how Black people are going to move forward.
That's all we have for now. Join us next time on What's Eating Harlem. See you uptown.
This program was made possible by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, the Harlem Community Development Corporation, and by the West Harlem Development Corporation. Solutions through collaboration. Also by the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and Harlem Park to Park.
Now I'ma put it down like that. I'm leaving, I ain't coming back. You don't like the way I act anyway. You really don't have to react. Don't try to change my mind, in fact. Honey, I've already packed all my stuff. We're no longer kids, let's move on. And you are not my kid, so I'm done. Please don't make me